Let's not kid ourselves. We all want to raise our chess level. You know why? There is one player who made chess look ridiculously easy. Jose Raul Capablanca. Well, all players have always complicated things their whole lives, looking for impossible tactics, right? Don't tell me we haven't seen games here on this channel where we've seen super complicated tactics that are useless to us, because we probably wouldn't have thought of them, right? And what if I told you that is exactly the skill that is probably going to make you gain more elo and in a simpler way? I am convinced that when you finish this video, you are going to want to go back to the beginning and watch it again, because many of the ideas I'm going to reveal to you here today will change the way you see chess forever. I assure you, you are going to see chess in a much easier way. Come on, let's look at this example, because I assure you it's going to fascinate you, huh? Capablanca started with the queen's pawn to d4. Really, the opening moves aren't the most important thing, since you've seen on this channel or any other that there are so many great openings in chess. There isn't a magic opening that is better than all the others, right? Alright, so we're going to go through these moves a little faster. Well, double queen's pawn. And here, well, Capablanca decides to play the queen's gambit. An opening, of course, covered on the channel, but, well, among so many others, right? You can choose the one you like the most and play that opening. From here on, well, the player with the black pieces defends the queen's pawn with the c6 pawn. Something super simple. Capablanca continues developing his pieces, the knights, the bishops, and then castling. Black sets up this arrowhead formation, which, for all of you who don't know, this is called the Semi-Slav defense. And as you all know, well, Capablanca was always looking for the best move. He wasn't trying to look for a lethal combination, as I was telling you, right? He was always looking for the best move. Well, the interesting thing is that usually in chess, there are several very good moves, right? For example, here, knight to c3 would be a very good move because we developed this knight. Well, we would say, I want to develop these two bishops, but which one am I going to develop first? Simple. I want to develop this one first because imagine that to develop this one, I want to move this pawn. So I would be blocking the path of the other bishop, right? That's why I developed this bishop first. And in this case, he does it on the g5 square to directly attack the queen. Well, black blocks the threat to the queen with the bishop. They pose a question to us, whether to trade bishops or not. While Capablanca says, if you're attacking it with two pieces, bishop and queen, and I'm gonna lose it, well look, you know what? To not waste time. Simple, right? I'll trade the bishop with you and that's it. Nothing more than that. Black recaptures. Notice that up to this point you can't tell me otherwise, huh? Simply put, he's making super logical moves. Let's try to understand them all. At this moment, I don't know if you knew this, but Capablanca is the player in history with the best average game score, meaning the player in history who makes the fewest mistakes. And do you know how he does this? Well, by also thinking about what the opponent would do. This is key for our chess level. Pay attention, okay? What does the opponent want to do? What can they do? Right now, only one piece can reach the attack, the queen. She could come over here, put me in check, take this pawn, then the other, and that could be dangerous. Therefore, I'm going to avoid it by blocking the check. Well, for example, with the knight to d2. And why not with the knight to c3? Many of you might ask. Well, because here we also defend the c4 point. As you can see, this c4 pawn is being attacked by the pawn, but right now, I wouldn't mind at all if they captured it, because if they do capture this pawn, I'll simply advance my setter pawn, recapture with the bishop, and I'm a fantastic pawn setter. Central control means control of the position. Therefore, they weren't threatening to capture this pawn right now, but the threat is indeed coming with the queen for the check. Well, Capablanca says, look, I'll develop the knight, block the opponent's threat, and on top of that, I'll defend the c4 pawn. See? He took his time to always look for the best solution. The game continued with f5, an aggressive move. Well, are aggressive moves scary to Capablanca? No, he isn't scared by aggressive moves or passive moves in the same way that they shouldn't affect us. Simply put, we should think, well, how should I react? When they advance too much, be careful. They're also leaving many weaknesses behind. That means we can take advantage of them. For example, at some point, we can take advantage of this knight jump to the d5 outpost. For the moment, I have other priorities. Castling the king. And to castle the king, I must develop my light-squared bishop. Therefore, I advance the pawn to develop it. It's as simple as that. The black pieces continue to develop their pieces, well, whatever they want. And Capablanca says, well, now I'm going to develop my bishop, and I'm deciding between two squares, d2 and d3. Well, the d3 square seems more active to me. Also keeping in mind that here I'm aiming at a very interesting square, since it's a square where black has brutal strength with their pawns. Both advanced pawns are pointing at this d4 point, d4. Not only that, pay attention, okay? We're not just defending pieces, we're also defending squares. Important. Why? Because in the end, chess is a game where we place pieces on squares, right? On the squares that we want. Therefore, if the opponent has absolute control of a square, well, maybe that's going to be a problem. We're also going to try to fight him a little bit for that control. The game continues with knight to a6. It might seem like a very strange move. Sorry, this is knight to h6. Why? Because it's developing the side. Correct, yes. But it's not such a strange move, since now this knight can both jump forward and recycle itself through this f7 square. Therefore, be careful, since the position is still very closed. It's also the time to maneuver with the pieces. Nothing happens at all. But look at how Capablanca plays a, everyday, calm, logical game, all right? And that is what we must do, not complicate our lives. Chess is already complicated enough as it is without us complicating our lives. What am I going to do then, friends? Cassie. That makes sense, right? And besides, pay attention, okay? Because the player with the black pieces once defeated Alekhine. We're talking about an extremely strong player, and we're going to see how Capablanca defeats him with a simple, well, let's say with a precision and simplicity that is truly unsettling, right? Let's follow his advice. Pay attention, because you're going to like this. Black castles their king as well. It doesn't seem like a bad move. And now, while Capablanca says, I've already developed my pieces, I've already castled my king, and a lot of people get lost here. What do I do now? Well, now it's the turn, nothing more and nothing less, of the queen. For what? To be able to connect the rooks to each other. Right now, the rooks are quote-unquote defenseless. They aren't really, because the queen is there, but they are more defenseless. What are they super secure when they're connected to each other? Well, I'm going to develop the queen. And where am I going to develop her? Well, there are several squares where it would be very interesting to develop her. Capablanca decides on c2, because that way he defends this point. If at any moment the file opens, the queen will be in position. She coordinates with the bishop to aim at the king side. Well, a more than reasonable move. Well, logically, look at what black does, huh? They stop the attack with this file, right? Of pawns, this pawn chain where they are all placing themselves on white squares. This is a small strategic error because black only has one bishop, and that is the light squared bishop. If you only have one bishop, you should try to place your pawns on opposite colors so that the bishop can move around on the other colors. At this moment, look, Capablanca has his pawns on black squares while the bishop is on white squares. And although the position's very closed, without a doubt, we can already determine that this bishop is better than this other one. The game continued. In what way? What do I do now? Well, Capablanca says, I have nothing left to do. And this is where many would rush, right? This is extremely important, huh? Because up to this point, look, more or less everyone could have reached it. But from here on, what? Many would rush, they would jump with the knight, capture around here, advance. No. The only way the opponent has to attack, let's say, what is it? Capture this pawn? It doesn't worry me at all, because if they capture my pawn, I have several ways to recapture it. There's no way. So what I want is to gain space. This is a little trick that Capablanca used to use, which is actually a pretty well-known trick, but it works like a charm. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, friends. Just follow what already works. You gain space. Where do we want to gain space? Well, if the pawn chain points toward the queen side, we want to gain space toward the queen side. How would I gain space? Well, by advancing the pawns, but be careful, we would lose it. Therefore, it's simple. Capablanca says, I want to advance the pawn. They're going to take it here, so I'll defend it. I place the rook, and now the rook, which wasn't doing anything, helps my pawn push. Knight f6. And now that the knight stops defending this point, now is the time to bring in the other knight. Do you understand? improving the position of my knight, now that you can't capture it, in such a way that now, if you attack it again, I can reinforce it with f4, I can reinforce it with the other knight to f3, and this central knight is going to be very well placed. Indeed, black attacks it with that other knight that seemed like it wasn't doing anything, and now, well, white, Capablanca, reinforces it. It's as simple as that. Because if black decides to capture now, look, I'll show you. All white would have to do is recapture here. The knight would be driven away, it would have to retreat, black would be lacking space, the rook would gain an entry route, and that's why black doesn't want to eliminate this knight for the moment. Hey, play bishop d7. Question, would you trade this knight for this bishop? Nah, huge mistake. A huge mistake, because you would be trading a very good piece for a bishop that is terrible. It's a very bad piece, because it can't do anything. It's blocked by all its pawns, and that's why this bishop can't move. At this moment then, what do? Well then, I reinforce my knight, knight f3. There's no rush. As you can see, Capablanca isn't trying to deliver a quick checkmate, but rather he's working on it little by little and improving his position. With every move he makes, his position gets better. Seriously, look closely at this game, save this video, and for all of you who have time, watch it again, because then you'll discover nuances you hadn't seen in the first viewing. Black continues trying to activate their rooks, and I say trying because they really don't have anywhere to go. Now then, I'm calm over here. You've bothered me enough, black player. I'm going to continue with my plan. And what was my plan? As simple as gaining space on the queen side. Black tries to maneuver with their pieces, although it won't do them much good. Capablanca continues improving his position. The attack is going to come through here because I'm advancing my pawns. I'm going to bring my pieces that aren't doing anything into the attack, again improving the position. Black tries to stop the attack, but this is absolutely useless. I'm going to come for this attack when I deem it necessary. For the moment, since you can't do anything to me over here, I'm going to try to intimidate you over here. Look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to move my queen to the other flank, since it's a completely mobile piece, and I'm hinting that I could enter at some point on the queen side. Wait, on the king side. Sometimes what Capablanca would do is distract the opponent as well. He would make it look like he was going for one flank so that black would have to come over to defend and then attack on the other flank. We're going to see it in this game because it's spectacular. They trade my knight. What do I want to capture with? With the pawn or with the knight? Well, obviously with the knight first. Why? For several reasons. Above all because the pawns, I would have them doubled and that would be a bad thing, okay? On the other hand, when you can place a knight where it is magnificently placed, why place a pawn? The pawn isn't going to attack practically anything, and look at everything the knight attacks. Therefore, between the two options, it is better to place the knight. And now that they are trying to attack it, this move by Capablanca is worth taking your hat off to. And this, we can understand if we apply concepts. That's why by watching these videos, we learn many concepts that we can later apply in our games. And it is evident, of course, that the more concepts we know, the better results we will obtain, and the better games we will play. What is the concept we're applying in this case? Who has more space? There's no doubt. Capablanca. Why? Not only does he have it now, but it is going to become much more active. His pieces have more freedom, the opponents can't do anything. Therefore, who benefits from the exchange of pieces? Of course, black, and this is it is very easy to remember. In a house, this small, what would I prefer? 2 people living there or 10? Well, obviously I prefer 2. Therefore, I want to exchange pieces. Well, I won't let you. Capablanca moves the knight away, and when your knight leaves, I'll place my knight back in the opponent's territory. Have you understood this concept? Spectacular. Black tries to come in with the rook, and now I don't want you to open the file so you can come and attack. I want to lock you in. Brutal move. I want to lock you in now that you're preparing to open up. No. I'll lock you in and gain more space in such a way that the rival pieces are left with less and less space. Therefore, we will have a more comfortable game. The knight tries to come toward the center, but it doesn't bother me. I keep gaining space. It also would have been interesting to come back with the knight through here. However, black could have returned with the knight to d7, and we would have had to retreat the knight again over here. Therefore, Capablanca says, well, I'm not going to play this exchange game all the time, but rather I'm going to continue with my attack. Watch out, the knight's coming to attack the queen. Do I care? No, I'm simply going to move it. And where am I going to move it? Well, simply put, Capablanca said, I'm going to look for the best move, right? Of course. So, do you know what the best move is? Placing it here? Seems strange, right? But no, look, here it defends this weak piece. It can come towards the king side, it can come towards the queen side. Therefore, it is ready to attack wherever it wants. That's why it's the best move. Black says, well, this knight isn't doing absolutely anything here anymore. I'm going to retreat it again. And Capablanca says, yeah, well, now you're definitely not coming back here. I'll place the pawn here so you don't come over here. As you can see, Capablanca approached games as if they were a story and didn't leave any options for his opponent, huh? You see it, right? You're not going to be able to come back here anymore because I'm coming to lock you in with my pawn. Well, the knight has to find another route, and now, key moment. What do I do now? I don't have any more options. I've attacked a lot over here. Do I break through, or what do I do? Of course, if I break through now, what do I mean if I break through now? If I try to break this pawn structure now, black could start capturing. Careful, because after the captures, the file would open up for black, and that's where they could get active. I don't feel like it. I want to break through in a place where there's no danger, and paradoxically, it's on the king side. How can that be, Chessteacher? You drive me crazy here. I don't understand this. It's very easy. Let's calculate what the opponent can do. Capture here? Well, but it doesn't open any file. Nothing happens. Can the queen enter? No, my knight controls that square. Therefore, forgive me, if black tries to make an exchange here, absolutely nothing would happen. Black wouldn't gain absolutely anything. You understand the difference between here and here, right? Interesting. Well, black can't do practically anything. They move the bishop, and now, well, Capablanca says, well, I'm going to improve the rook, which being here does the same thing, just one square ahead, but now it can move across this horizontal where no one is occupying it. And besides, who knows if I can double rooks over here? I can double rooks over here. You never know. I'll see what I'll do with that rook. The king moves aside, and Capablanca says, come on, okay, yeah, I'm going to bring it to the king's side. Why? Because now I'm threatening to open up the position over here and have this rook become active. You understand? But black says, you're not going to have it that easy, because I'm going to fight you too. And he says, oh, really? Well, now I'm closing you off, and I've gained space on the king's side. I've gained space on the queen's side. Both flanks. I have absolute control. I'll bring this rook back whenever I want. And of course, the game is being cooked over a slow fire, with no options for the opponent to launch a counterattack. Look, black is trying to do the same thing as Capablanca. Very interesting. However, be careful. The position is already clearly superior for Capablanca, even if it doesn't look like it. We continue with the Capablanca masterclass. Well, he's improving his position little by little. This pawn here isn't doing anything. He's preparing it in case he wants to break through and open up the position here in the future, now that he has a space advantage. The king comes over here and says, yeah, you come with the king, I've got the rook over here, so I'm going to open up the position on you. If you capture, you're going to have a serious problem, because now just imagine, huh? I can come in with queen to h4, putting pressure on all your weak pawns that you won't be able to defend because I won't let you, and you're going to have serious problems. I would be breaking up your whole structure. And that's why black, with good judgment, doesn't capture, but instead brings the rook over here. In case white captures, they would open up the file. So if I can open this file and my opponent is going to have absolute control, well, I'm not going to let that happen, right? I'm going to place my rook there too, so you don't have that absolute control. The queen comes to c7, I don't care. You improve your queen, I'm going to improve mine even more. I'm going to place it over here in such a way that, well, you never know. When the position opens up, who knows if this pawn will be able to advance and I'll put your king in check. This queen here wasn't threatening anything anymore. Here, when there are pawn exchanges, watch out, because you'll be able to see for yourselves that it will be able to attack the king. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. That's said a lot, isn't it? The queen moves back again, and now, well, Capablanca shows that, indeed, he follows the advice he gives himself. He applies the idea that he always wants to improve all his pieces, even the king. So come on, the king that's down there doing nothing, I'm going to bring him a little closer. What for? Because at some point, black could go crazy. Imagine that I want to jump with the knight over here. Well, they might try to sacrifice their knight for 2 pawns and open up the position a lot. And this could be dangerous. That is why the king now moves aside to make way for the other rook. And not only that, but it's going to come to defend the king's side. You're going to see how interesting it is. The rook comes to defend, and now Capablanca says, well, now I'm going to attack you down this file that you're not defending, and I'm going to place my queen. You'll see what an interesting plan this is. The rook moves back here, and now the queen advances little by little. There's no rush. Slow and steady. Black might think, well, Capablanca is wasting time, so I will too, and this is going to end in a draw. But no, I've made you bring all of your pieces over here to this spot. You see it now, don't you? Right? I've made you bring all your pieces over here. Now, yes, I'm opening up the position. Why? Because you don't have any defenses here anymore. You have them all on the other flank. And that's why now is the time to break through. And when you capture here, we think, what do I do? Do I take here? No. Look at this move by Capablanca. I'm getting goosebumps. I advance the pawn and check in such a way that now the king blocks the 2 rooks from returning to defense. Careful, the king can move, and then the rooks will be able to enter. And they are already losing time. Time that we are going to take advantage of. First, by capturing here. Careful. The queen is on X-ray again. This pawn can't be captured. Serious mistake. Notice that Capablanca wasn't looking for spectacular combinations, but rather combinations of 1 or 2 moves within reach of practically everyone, yet lethal. If you capture this pawn, discovered attack, check with the queen, and I take your bishop. You see it? So you can't capture this pawn. Well, it's possible the opponent sees it, but it doesn't matter because the threat is extremely strong. And what is the threat? Well, now, no matter how much you try to unblock the rooks, I'll block you here with the idea that I have a spectacular pawn chain towards both flanks, where I can start to penetrate from the side, and where, for the moment, I have control of the file. Black wants to come and fight. The queen is being threatened, so it must move. There aren't many squares either. And now, the only open file there is, that is to say, the only connection route between the king's flank, between black's flank and white's flank, is the A file, a file completely dominated by Capablanca. Look at this. How does Capablanca continue? Simple. I move the queen aside so that the rook attacks here. Not just the queen first, but always let the rooks go in front first. We're not going to place the queen as a source of attack, right? As a source of a possible attack by the opponent. And now what? Well, look at this. I place the rook on an outpost. Those of you who are in the academy have seen it, right? The class on the outpost. If it's in the center, we place a knight. If it's on the side, we place a rook. Those of you who've seen the academy class will have this super clear. And once placed here, what then? Well, obviously, if they want to trade it, the pawn will be a passed pawn about to promote. If not, I'm going to triple up on this file and I'm going to have absolute control again. And how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to bring the other rook, which isn't doing absolutely anything here anymore. And how am I going to continue? Well, by bringing in a rook that isn't doing absolutely anything. This game deserves to be watched several times. Make sure to save this video. Well, black continues with their plan, which is trying not to die, right? And white keeps improving their position more and more. Of course, black just can't move. Think about moves for black. There aren't any available. And now, Capablanca sets up the classic Alekine's gun, which we've also seen a lesson on, right? Alekin's gun, rook, and queen with absolute control of the A file. And now what? I have everything now, right? No. Remember the possible sacrifice at some point by black around here? I'm going to come in with the king and I'll have everything defended. Even on my last 2 ranks, I have nothing. Imagine the space advantage I have. Black does what they can, and Capablanca continues improving his king, also protecting this pawn, which is the source of potential knight sacrifices. They won't even let him sacrifice. It's impressive. The king moves, black can't do anything. Capablanca continues improving his pieces. He's in no rush whatsoever. For now, looking at what to do with the queen, again an X-ray along for the king. He moves, the king also moves, and you might say, wait, chess teacher, why is he moving the king if he just brought it all the way here? Well, with the simple idea of maneuvering with his knights. This knight is going to leave. And then the king would be very exposed over here. Therefore, I'm going to pull it back a little bit so it doesn't remain so exposed. Since I have all the time in the world, I'll bring it back. Now that he can no longer sacrifice, I'm leaving. It's as simple as that. How does the position continue after this king g3? Well, black continues maneuvering with their king, but in return, unlike white, white does it with a purpose, black does it because they can't do anything. And now I maneuver with the knight to attack the only weakness that's easy to attack, which is the weakness on b7. Once I manage to win that pawn, I'll practically win the game. And how does he do it? Well, now I'm coming to attack over here because I want to bring the knight to the a5 square from where it will attack b7 perfectly, right? And that's how he does it. I attack this point. Of course, black is prepared here as best they can to defend, right? He tries to defend everything, but here are simple Capablanca combinations. You can't capture my bishop, or, well, you can, but I'm going to capture your other one. So if you do it, which you have no choice, right? Because if you don't, you're going to lose the pawn. That is to say, when you do it, you've just lost your support on b7, and now I have a passed pawn. And more than just a passed pawn, it's a passed and supported pawn. You'll never be able to capture it, and I'm 2 steps away from promoting it. Therefore, the game will be practically won. Once again, they're trying to trade pieces. Trading just for the sake of trading is useless. Capablanca thought about simple combinations, and in this case, the combination was the following. I take this knight, and when you take my rook, well, I have this knight takes pawn, I attack your queen, and I attack both your rooks. Combinations in quotes, eh? Simple, because they're 2 move sequences, but effective, not some crazy combination. I attack your queen, obviously it has to move, and when the queen leaves, well, I'm simply going to capture one of these 2 rooks. Here, the black player already resigned. Because look, after the capture here, simply winning this endgame would be as easy as eating a piece of bread. Yes or no, friends? Why? Because these 2 passed and supported pawns are going to promote with, or practically rather, without any effort. It's going to be extremely simple. Therefore, look at Capablanca. Simple, but effective. Keep this lesson well in mind. Oh, by the way, very important. Last 10 days, okay? Since I'm recording this, maybe there's even less time left before the Academy's launch price ends. That is to say, if you want to join the Academy, do it now. Friends, let me explain. The launch price has been there since day 1. It's lasted 2 or 3 months. Spectacular. For all of you who have already joined us at the special launch price, please rest assured that the upcoming change to our regular pricing will not affect you at all. You will get to keep that original launch price forever, for as long as you remain a member, until the day you decide to cancel your subscription. It's like a reward I've given you, right? For the trust you have placed in me. You joined at the launch price, you were the first ones in, and you're going to keep it forever. Another question, is the 7-day trial plan for €1 still available? Yeah, it's still available for €1 or $1, depending on where you are. It's still available, okay? If you join with the $1 plan while the launch price is active, you'll be able to keep it forever as well. In other words, if you join now, you'll also keep the launch price forever. Important, if you like learning chess, I assure you it'll be worth it. You can cancel whenever you want, and there are also new things coming, okay? You'll have it in the Academy, you're going to see it, you're going to like it. There are new things coming, you're going to love them. If there's 1 day left, this is also a typical question, if there's only 1 day left until the launch price ends and I go ahead and join with the €1 trial, obviously when those 7 days are up, the trial won't be available anymore. Yes, don't worry, for you it will be. If you join, that is, if you still see the countdown that it's available, you can join with the €1 trial, and when the €1 trial ends, you will be charged the launch price. All right, let's go. That said, chess teacher, enough messing around. Save this video, leave a big like if you want more, and I'll see you inside the Academy, of course, obviously. And you'll be able to talk to me whenever you want for any questions. I hope you liked this video, and we'll see each other tomorrow in the next one, friends. Bye.